Hello again, my YouTube lovelies, and welcome to this episode. Before I get into the episode, I just want to say a really quick thank you and shout out to a bunch of people. The last video that I put out on the last vlog, Trolls and #vanlife, as I said in the video, that was something that I never expected to do, and but felt it had to be done in terms of being able to explain a situation and also being able to sort of big up this wonderful community, the van life community, because since that video went up, the support that I've received through Instagram messages, through comments on the video, have just been astounding, and I cannot thank you enough for your support and appreciation of the stuff that I was going through at the time. And you know, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, really do, for just, you know, coming together as a community and just being that sort of arm around my shoulder. I just cannot thank you enough. It's just brilliant, so thank you there. I also want to say a big shout out to Angela, Fire Angel My Journey, because she did a lovely shout out to me when she did her van life tag questions, and generated a sort of some traffic coming my way, which has been brilliant. And massive big shout out to Brett. I mean, Brett, man, you're a legend, and you know, I really do appreciate what you've done, the shout out that you've done for me. You know, we've kind of, I suppose, have this common kinship in terms of a thing that's happened to us. Mine nowhere near as bad as what you've had to go through, but nonetheless it's been incredible to receive your support and love, and just genuine, you know, friendship, and just like, you know, come on, let's get together, guys. So yeah, that's been brilliant. So I just wanted to get that out there first, and just, yeah, say once again thank you. Right, back to normal. This is it. We're back in the normal swing of things again. This is the video is called Take the Floor. Now I've decided actually to do this in two parts, because going through the footage on my laptop and looking at all of the B-roll that I've got, there was quite a few bits and pieces in there, and I just sort of thought it'd be quite nice to sort of try and get as much of that content into this particular episode. And then I just thought, actually, there's too much to go into one episode, so I think I'm going to do this as two parts. So moving on from the insulation and the wrapping of the inside of the van, I decided to continue with that same idea with the thermowrap. So I thought, well, what harm can it do? If I've done the walls initially in it as a sort of sound deadening kind of exercise, I figured, well, why not do the same for the floor? I thought that the floor needed quite a bit of attention, in terms of it is a large area, and I would imagine that there is quite a bit of cold that could just seep in through the floor, or lose a lot of heat through the floor, I guess, in some way. So I kind of wanted to make sure that the floor was done as well as I possibly could. Again, maybe I've gone overboard, I don't know, but ultimately it looks good and it works brilliantly. So, you know, let's say it's that we've kind of hit a formula here in it when we're okay. So I carried on with the thermowrap. I wrapped the whole of the floor and sealed it with the silver tape. And then I thought, well, whilst I'm at it, if I'm doing the floor, I may as well actually just sort of tackle the wheel arches as well. So I covered the wheel arches as well in the thermal wrap. So there's a point, and I'll show you a clip, where the whole inside of the van, it just looked like almost like the inside of a satellite, I guess. It was just one massive silver bubble wrap. Yeah, it looked quite sort of quite cool at the time, and took a bunch of photos and stuff like that. And it was nice to know that, as cool as it looks, I just kind of knew that deep down this was a thing that was ultimately going to be really good in the long run, so it was worth doing. Well, once I'd done all the wheel arches and everything, I was then ready to start sort of putting in the battens. Now, I decided to use the 25mm thermowrap, sorry, not thermowrap, the Quinfirm Celotex equivalent. And because that's 25mm, I then decided to get some 25mm battens. Now, I work in timber a lot because I build a lot of scenery for theatre shows, etc. And if you get planed 2x1, as we call it, or 25mm by 50mm, there's quite a bit that gets shaved off that, and so the actual true measurement isn't what you think it is. So what I went for, I took myself to Selco's and went into their garden department and bought the rough sawn timber. So it's the stuff that's really, it's got all the splinters in still, and it's still quite rough. But that is 2x1 in its original form, i.e. just coming off the mill. So it actually is 2 inches by 1 inch, and it's not 20mm by 50mm sort of thing. So because of that thickness, those battens basically meant that they were perfectly level with the Quinfirm once I'd put that in. So I went with the rough stuff. I'm quite lucky, by the way, at this point of the build. This is where the build begins, because I'm in a position where I can use a workshop. So I park the van at the back of my workshop at work, and I've got all of the woodworking machinery in the theatre workshop to build my van with. So I'm really lucky, and I know that a lot of us don't have this particular opportunity, and maybe that's the sort of the saviour that I've got in terms of my van build. But to be honest with you, the tools that I use, the machinery that I use, there are loads of different alternatives out there, whether it be portable, battery operated, or plug it into your wall socket. There are other alternatives that can still make the job as easy, but this was made particularly easier in the fact that I did have the full use of a workshop. So I was able to use a cross-cut saw to cut any pieces of timber. I also had another cross-cut saw which could do mitre, corners, 45 degrees, etc., or any other degree in between. So that kind of did speed up the process and make things a lot easier for me. So what I did was I came up with a rough drawing. I sketched out roughly where I wanted the battens to go, and then I screwed those directly in with a self-tapping screw. So I just went straight into the metalwork of the van floor. So doing the beams, I try to keep regular intervals where it would just make it easier for when I was going to screw the floor on top of the beams, and eventually the final flooring that I was going to put on top. So I spaced it out. I'd worked out with the drawing equal intervals, and then made a framework that went all the way around the edge, so that I knew that I had a sort of solid anchoring point. I say solid anchoring point, it's not that solid, but there was an anchoring point of some sort that I knew that eventually when I was screwing furniture elements in, etc, etc, I had a base to where I could go through, and I wasn't just screwing into the Quinn Firm 25mm stuff. So that's that process over. Yeah, battening it out. Also, by putting lots of battening in, it also meant that I was in a position where I knew that I would have a lot of support, so I wasn't just solely relying on the thickness of the Quinn Firm to take my weight. So I wanted to spread that weight evenly, so that's another reason why I put the amount of battens that I did do. Once that was in, the next stage is then cutting up the Quinn Firm, and up to now, everything that I'd done with the wall insulation, the Quinn Firm, I basically bought myself a brand new tenon saw and cut it with the saw. Some people use Stanley knives, etc. But now I'm in a position where I'm in the workshop. I thought, well, let's give this a go and see if I can do it on the bandsaw. And the bandsaw cut for it like it was an absolute dream. It was really, really nice. But it would only work on so many, just due to the width of the bandsaw and the kind of width of how you could feed the material through. So I think in the end I ended up using a jigsaw as well to cut the actual pieces. But that was quite a quick process, really, when you think about it, because the measurements were fairly regimental across the whole floor. I still measured each one anyway, just in case, because I didn't trust my maths and my measurements that well. And yeah, those pieces just fitted like a glove. They were really, really snug fits. Once those were in, I then used the metal tape, and then I sealed all of the cracks. So basically all the joins where the Quinn Firm meets the 25mm or 2x1 sawn timber, I then taped over all of those edges. The thinking behind that was just it was in itself some kind of like vapor seal or vapor barrier, but also to stop water, etc, or moisture coming up from the floor upwards, or vice versa. And it was also another way of just being able to secure any panels that weren't as snug a fit. They could then fit quite nicely amongst the timber. And then the next stage is then, why not, Rob, stick in some more thermowrap. I must have really gone to I think I did go too overboard on this, but I don't know, maybe not, maybe it's fine. But I think it was just going with the thermowrap again. That in my mind was a vapor barrier, so that went all the way over the floor again. And I just figured, well, why not? You know, it's sort of, this is doing exactly what I've done to the walls, and it just left a very nice clean area to work to and everything. So it was just, I don't know, it was just the way I roll with these things. You know, sometimes I look at something and just sort of think, yeah, I can cut a corner here, but other times I just think, nah, sod it, let's just go for it. So that was the sketch with that. Stick another layer of thermowrap to seal the whole thing in, and then once that's done, I then put my first sacrificial layer of timber. So this could quite easily be the timber that you originally took out the van when you strip a van, but in my case that timber was so bad that I wasn't able to use that again, so I factored in buying some new sheets. So the sheets that go down at this stage, these were just 5mm ply. I got 5mm just because I just wanted a little bit of thickness there, and the other thing about it is that with that thickness and then the 2x1 below, it then gives me a really decent sort of amount of depth to be able to screw screws into when I'm putting furniture in, etc. So that was the reasoning behind putting in that next 5mm layer. I think this is where I'm going to end this particular part. The next episode basically focuses on the final finished floor, and then also the finishing touches to the wheel arches as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and give us a comment or subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, Take the Floor Part 2. Cheers.